Greetings, dear friends. Welcome to day 6 of Worship in the Wilderness. This is the end of week 1. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Today's video, I've decided to do it at the end of the day. You can see the African sun setting behind me. I've just lit a fire. Here's your text for today. Let me read it. It comes from Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2. The Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years. And in chapter 8, we are instructed in verse 2, in verse 10, verse 18, and verse 19, we are instructed to, when we are in the wilderness, as part of our worship in the wilderness, we are instructed to do the following: to remember the goodness of God. So I ask you, will you remember, will you take time to reflect upon God's faithfulness, God's goodness, God's hand upon your life this past day, week, month, year? Why don't you take time to think about and celebrate and remember how God has led you, how God has been faithful to you? It's what we are supposed to do in the wilderness. Remember the goodness of God. Verse 17 tells us what happens when we don't remember. When we don't remember, we fall back on our own reliance and dependence. And let me in fact read verse 17. It says, you may then say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. You see, and so that's why perhaps here's then the thought. Sometimes God leads us into the wilderness because that's exactly what it takes to turn from worshiping ourselves to worshiping God. To move away from that self-dependence and self-reliance and to become more dependent and reliant upon God. Will you today take time to remember the goodness of God? God bless you. See you next week.